I've been dying to make this video, and finally we are at the 1-year mark of our beach house Airbnb, which we host remotely in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. As you probably already know, the past 2 years has been crazy in terms of the rental market and also in the housing market. There's the whole Airbnbust situation. Supply has blown up in most short-term rental markets, mine included, and recession is all everyone is talking about. So how did we do through all of that, and what would I do differently next year? If you're new here, hi, my name's Lydia. My real job is working in a hospital, but on the side, I host on Airbnb and I share my experience here on YouTube. Before we dive into the ups and downs and all of our financial data, a huge favor to please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. It really does help spread the video to more viewers, and I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers maybe next month. So thank you for your support. Now let's rewind back to early 2022 when all of this started. At that point, we had our first tiny house Airbnb under our belt, and we were looking to expand into a new market and do something bigger and more fun. The personal enjoyment obviously was an aspect, but the other consideration was that we wanted to make money. Of course, this whole thing is to make money. After a few months of looking and doing a bunch of math on like a dozen houses, we finally found the beach house that we eventually bought, and we closed on this house in April. My husband traveled to Florida all by himself to close on the house, to set up, to get all the licenses figured out, and he did all of that in 4 days, which is mind-blowing to me. While he was in Florida, I was home with a newborn because we're crazy. And when he napped, I would go on my computer and prep the listing description, the house manual, the neighborhood info, basically all the components I need for the listing to go live. The literal day after he leaves Florida, I put the listing up on Airbnb using a mix of previous Zillow pictures and just iPhone pictures, just so we can get some interest and have people looking at the listing. And that was May 1st. On May 2nd, magically, we already got our first booking, and we didn't even have pictures of each room yet, which was crazy to me. I think that was a function of both that summer being a really hot market at that time, and also new listings get a little boost from Airbnb in terms of the algorithm. I got professional photos done later that week, and as soon as possible, I swapped those high quality photos out for the old ones. Anyway, let's dive into the revenue. Our first month, May, we got this giant month-long booking at roughly $18,000. I know, I was blown away. It kind of feels like it was pure luck. In total for May, we made $20,003. June, we had a little bit of a lower income because half the month was already taken up by that month-long booking. And so we made $6,475 across 4 bookings. July, again, we had 4 bookings, earning a total of $8,353. I had expected more based on our initial projections and studying the market, and summer should be a hot season, like literally hot, but also popular. The reasons, I think, are that, first of all, this is a heavily weekend-only kind of market. So whether I book 2 nights of the weekend or 3 nights of the weekend, those remaining weekdays aren't gonna get booked. And I think my initial setup did not have the right minimum night requirements, and that led to a lower revenue. Secondly, a lot of people, at least last year, were booking way in advance. So by the time our listing entered the market in May, a lot of people have already made summer plans and booked their houses. So inherently, we just had a smaller customer pool, and we ended up getting a lot of last minute bookings. And last minute bookings by definition are just lower in revenue. Like for example, our 4th of July booking came in on June 24th. August, we blocked off a whole week for ourselves to enjoy, and this was the first time we went there all together as a family. As I shared in a previous video, it was still a lot of work, so it's not pure fun, but it is a very unique experience, and we got to enjoy the house together for the first time. We had a great time walking on the beach, getting food. It was pretty hot. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do more winter visits. This month, we also got our first Vrbo booking. My experience has heavily been more Airbnb bookings instead of Vrbo. I think Vrbo doesn't give that same kind of boost in the algorithm for new listings. Maybe because of that, it took me a long time to get to Premier Host on Vrbo. The revenue totaled $8,720, even with losing a week, which I'm pretty happy with. For September, the bookings really slowed down. It was a rainy season, so those last minute bookings just wouldn't happen. People are not gonna drive down from wherever a few hours away if it is going to be raining. Hurricane Ian was also going through Florida at the time, so in total, we only had 3 bookings and made $4,084. October is better, bringing in $7,863. November, we had 5 bookings, and with Thanksgiving in the mix, we had a total of $10,485. And I was like, okay, we are back in the 5 digits. Take a deep breath, you're gonna be okay. Moving on to December, we had 7 bookings because of New Year's, Christmas, and we had a total of $10,046 in revenue. In January, across 4 bookings, we took in $8,311. And then February, we also blocked off a week to enjoy again for ourselves, this time with my husband's side of the family. And it was really cool that the whole extended family was traveling in from different states and congregating at this house. We went to the beach, we had good food, it was loud. It was pretty much exactly how I pictured we would enjoy the house together. And even though we had work stuff to do, it was still such a cool experience to share together. And it was a really nice break from the snowy winter up here. In total, we made $7,891. March was spring break, plus a lot of golf related travel. And across 5 bookings, we made $12,329. Lastly, April just ended, and this month was actually kind of anxiety provoking again, with the bookings really slowing down. I think we got used to the pacing that was October through March, where everything was well in advance, and when we got to that first week of April, we were down to our last booking that would end at that first weekend of April, and beyond that, there was nothing. It was completely empty on the calendar, and I was about to lose my mind, and I think I just forgot how these last minute bookings feel, and it sucks. We did eventually get some last minute bookings that filled up actually a good chunk of the month, and we made a total of $11,102 across 6 bookings. But it didn't feel like a 5-digit month, which I guess just goes to show you really can't base anything on your feelings, because that is not objective at all. So all in all, the total revenue for the full 12-month span was $115,662. And this actually matched our projection, which was $116K. It also actually performed pretty well compared to the market. Looking at the market dashboard here on Price Labs, for 4 to 6 bedrooms, the revenue was $84.4K for the past 365 days. And if I narrowed it down to just 5 bedrooms, it was $111K. And some of these homes have pools, so we did all right, I think. But as you know, that's not the full story. We haven't talked about expenses yet. And as I've mentioned in a previous video, that's kind of my weakness. So it would be a lie to say I'm not nervous to share this, but I think by sharing my mistakes in full transparency, I hope it accomplishes 2 things. 1 is that you see what not to do, and 2, it normalizes making mistakes. We are all beginners at some point, including probably some of the biggest YouTubers you see here, or a friend who has like 10, 12 rentals or 100 units, whatever. We all started from somewhere and we've all made mistakes. And I hope this gives you some level of confidence and comfort that, yeah, you're probably gonna go do something that is wrong at some point, and that's okay. You'll learn from it. We've all learned from our own mistakes, and you can't let that be the reason to not try. All right, so I had projected $92,000 in expenses. Let's see how we actually did. For mortgage payments, which here includes principal, interest, property taxes, and insurance, that is about $5,200 per month. It is a 5-bedroom house, it's by the beach, so I know it's kind of a higher payment, and this was built into our projection, so expectation matched reality. Cleaning is $275 each time. It is pricey, but that's partly because it's a larger house, and our cleaners do a really good job of both the cleaning, but also letting us know when something is going wrong. They have really good common sense, and they put the trash bins back even on the days that they're not there. And I think for that full service package, especially for someone managing remotely, I think that's worth the money. Our cleaning costs have ranged from $825 to $1,650 per month based on how many flips we have, and it matched our projections of roughly $1,200 a month. Cable and internet are actually cheaper, $55 versus my projected $80 a month. Utilities, which include gas, electric, water, and trash, that has been super variable between the months. I think some months naturally, because it's so hot, the AC's turned way up. I had projected $400 a month based on super insulated passive home with smart home technology, and I've already inflated that number somewhat to account for the difference in the build. The final cost came out to be $450 per month, which is close, and I think a couple mistakes added to the cost. The first one is that I forgot that there is an AC in the attic. I have shared this story before and it's super embarrassing, but basically I didn't realize we had a second AC until one day the ceiling started dripping water and our cleaners told us. And yeah, I suppose a few months of not changing the filter probably didn't help the efficiency of the unit and probably didn't help our expenses in terms of utilities. The second mistake I had was forgetting to set up gas because we have this gas tank rental, just didn't set it up in the beginning and we ran out completely. The tank was bone dry when they got to it, and so we had to pay extra money for like an emergency inspection and emergency filling up, which obviously cost extra money. Because these are such avoidable mistakes that I don't want to ever make again, this prompted me to make the Trello board for keeping track of all my operational boring house tasks, and I'll link that below along with the video where I explain the setup. And then lawn care and pest, I originally had budgeted $209 a month. This is actually hilarious. Mowing grass by itself is $200 a month. And then there's the other parts of landscaping, like cutting back the plants seasonally, applying mulch, cutting down a dead tree because it froze for a few hours and the tree died. What a flimsy tree. Anyway, just that tree bit was over $1,000. And then pest, that is additionally $59 a month just to have a pest company come out and spray. And then for half the year, we also have mosquito service, which is another $30 a month. So all in all, I would say the reality is almost $500 a month between lawn and pest. That was way off. Maintenance and supplies wise, I hugely underestimated. I put kind of a blanket 5% of revenue and I saw that, well, that's $427 a month. That seems reasonable. What's breaking anyway? That should be enough. Incorrect. I think part of it is just with it being the first year and we are new in the house. There are a lot of like knickknacks that we're adding, decorative stuff, a new Pac-Man machine kind of for fun, partly for us, and all the kitchenwares. Both trips when we went, we would add things and buy more stuff, and that was a lot of the supplies cost. Additionally, things do break. Like the door handle came loose, our irrigation fuse broke and we needed the whole thing replaced. There's filters here, filters there. The fan remotes went missing and we needed to reset up everything. The pool Q-tips, always broken, always missing. And none of these things are super expensive. It's just an ongoing thing and you need someone to go there to fix it, and the person oftentimes costs as much as the fix itself or more. Those things really add up. But wait, there's more. There's the routine stocking of stuff like toilet paper, batteries. There's also routine maintenance, like having the HVAC guy come through and test everything, drain the lines, make sure it's all working. And washing the house, that's like an $800 expense. So in reality, we spent roughly $1,000 a month. I am hopeful that next year we would scale back on like adding fun things like the Pac-Man machine just because we wanted to. And I also think we've built up a better list of contacts for handy people, and we have a better system of making sure these maintenance tasks are done routinely and we are not letting problems build up into a bigger thing. Next is administrative stuff like having a business phone number, having software for managing dynamic pricing and guest messaging and syncing between Airbnb and Vrbo. I'll link the softwares I use below. In addition, there is the annual renewal of licenses to operate in Florida. There are annual filings for maintaining an LLC, which altogether was about $400. I did not even have a line item for these things in my initial projection. Oops. And then tourist tax for Duval County, which we set up to be collected from guests, but Airbnb does not, at least for this particular tax item, help us withhold and remit to the appropriate tax collector person. We get that passed through to us and that shows up in our revenue, but we still have to then pay taxes to Duval County. This tax item was 6% of our gross revenue, and I just didn't even have it in our projections. Travel expenses is another one that I didn't put in my projections at all. In total, we spent about $5,000 related to flights and food that are business related, and that includes 3 different trips. So in total, for the 12 months that we have been operating this Airbnb, we had $107,459 in expenses, and therefore the net profit was $8,203 in cash. To be fair, there are also some less tangible gains, and I'm not saying this just to make myself feel better. We got 2 family trips out of it. My husband got 3 trips, and this included the $5,000 that we deducted as business expenses. And we kind of got a place to stay for free, and it's not just any place. This is our own house that we feel super comfortable in, and something that we can edit and add to, and just add an arcade machine because we want to. And yes, it was still very much work. I don't want to pretend it's all like rainbows and unicorns, but it was still a very memorable experience, and I feel lucky to be able to do this. The other more intangible thing is taxes. If you're someone that is also getting into the 30+% in tax bracket, including federal, state, social security, the whole thing, then something like this, which generates some positive cash flow, but for tax purposes is a loss, that might actually be the sweet spot. And then there's also the loan pay down and appreciation. I'm not putting a whole lot into this bucket because who knows what housing prices are doing right now in the short term. But I do think 10 years from now, as the mortgage gets paid every month and I keep operating this thing, I am likely to come out ahead on this investment in this house. And then lastly, super cheesy, but I think I learned a lot this year. If you're in healthcare, you would know what residency feels like. And this feels a little bit like that. A very intensive learning experience. And it feels a little bit like you're thrown into the deep end of the pool and you're just expected to swim. And I won't say it wasn't hard, but you do come out of it feeling like, okay, I can do this. I can do hard things. I feel like I gained actual skills of customer service and marketing and analytical skills and whatnot, but also maybe more powerfully, a certain mindset that welcomes future challenges, whatever they may be. All of this to say, I know $8,000 isn't a huge amount of money to write home about, especially on a big investment like this, but I am really happy with what we accomplished this year. Next year though, I don't think it'll be as easy, and now is not the time to be complacent. Next week, I will talk through what I am anticipating as challenges and what kind of strategies I have in mind. Please subscribe, and I hope I got everything said before the sun is setting, the light changes, and I hope you got some value out of this video, and I will see you again next week. Bye!